those in favor? We have no unfinished business, and we have a presentation. Chief, would you like to introduce the presentation?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Hunter. Again, as I mentioned in caucus, Mr. Hunter, there's been much media surrounding the use of force, and particularly in relation to the use of tasers. And I've asked Sergeant Kerry McCowell and Constable Joey Rego to come today just to update the board. I mean, I know we initially had a presentation when we were introducing the taser, but I think it's important now that we have a public presentation in relation to it. And I think what I'd like to stress is when we deploy the taser, who actually deploys the taser, and actually the training that's involved. And I think it's important for the public to know. So I'd ask Sergeant McCowell and Constable Rego to come down. And just for your information, I think we had a presentation at the Chiefs Management Group last week, and Constable Rego did the honors, and he was tasered for the 12th time. So he's a pretty good sport. So Kerry, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chief. Members of CMT, members of PSB, Mr. Hunter, good morning. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning. Myself and Joey, Constable Joey Rego down in use of force. Myself, I'm one of the sergeants down in use of force training unit. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on the taser itself. Speak on taser use in Peel and how we have it set up. Today we're going to talk about the application of the use of force as it relates to our use of force model and where the taser fits in to the model itself. I'm going to provide you with the taser information that we have currently. Joey will cover off our taser electrical information, and we'll be showing you some videos at the end. And like the chief had pointed out, Joey had taken a five-second ride with the taser deployment. We have actually a videotape taken from Las Vegas when Joey was down taking the master taser instructor course. So it'll be interesting because we actually have probe deployment, the sharp probes between the programs over 5 seconds. Very interesting to see. Application of use of force. Taser X26 is our model that Joey actually has on his belt, that our frontline supervisors and acting sergeants currently carry. It fits in the model in the intermediate weapon area, in the, I know you've all been given the slide, the intermediate, the orange portion here. Along with that, our pepper spray and our ASB baton, which we also carry on our gun belt, or we like to call it our tool belt down in training. It is an added tool, another feature that's been added to our ability to use less lethal force. The taser is used with subjects who are displaying the signs of assaultive or active resistant behavior. So if you look at the model, it's in this area where the orange begins, basically into this area here. That's primarily when our tasers are being used. Tactical applications, when they have it, they normally run in a team formation, so they will have lethal and non-lethal in their lineup. And if a party's armed with a knife, they're able to deal with that individual. It is, we consider that as a lethal confrontation, but because they have the different levels of force covered off, the taser is definitely in their lineup and being used. Let's talk about assault at first. Pretty basic. Subjects are attempting to or apply force to anyone directly or indirectly. They also threaten by act or gesture to apply force to anyone. And the key here is, do we believe as the person that this person on reasonable grounds, has the ability to affect the purpose. So if I've got an elderly person in a wheelchair and he's threatening to beat me up and pound me, do I think he can complete this act? There's no way. So I am not authorized to obviously use that taser. So kicking, punching, that aggressive stance, they want to go, that's all fits in here. The body language is a key for us, and we always talk about in training threat cues, and our officers must pick up that before they're injured. Examples of this from the field. Thanks, Joe. I have an example down in Mississauga. 5 officers attended a call. They ended up dealing with 2 very combative subjects. It got to the point where one officer suffered concussion, a broken finger, a cut under his chin, and a bloody nose. He was thoroughly beaten. Thankfully, they had enough officers to get these subjects restrained, but only after this officer was hurt. The sergeant was not available at the time. He was tied up on another call in the area. This happened very quickly, so a taser was not available to these officers. The one particular subject continued to act out and be assaulted, trying to kick out a window of a cruiser. They get him back to the division, continuing to fight. They get the handcuffs are off the individual at this point. A staff sergeant, divisional staff sergeant, who are assigned a taser for duty, they come down to the cell area. The taser had to be deployed on this individual. From the point the taser was deployed, instantaneous compliance, and that's what we're looking for. Had we had a taser out on the street, we believe wholeheartedly that this assault on the officer would not have happened, and we would have had compliance, and there wouldn't have been any injuries.
To just add that, because myself and the rest of the Sports Bureau train all the officers in their user classes, we get constant feedback from the officers, sergeants, staff sergeants. And I've had staff sergeants tell me they go down to the cell, they bring their taser, and they just lean up against the wall, and they just let the officer do their business. They just stand here like this, and they get complete compliance from the subject without even using any type of physical or verbal tone. Just mere standing like this with a taser present is enough to get compliance to prevent that person from acting out.
Thanks, Joe. One other quick example for assaultive behavior that occurred in 2007 here. Our prisoner escort officers are assigned, obviously, to Davis Court. They are dealing with one very combative, assaultive individual, spitting, threatening to kill the officers. Supervisor from Peel Police comes down. Now he's dealing with the cell extraction team, the CET they call it. These gentlemen, these prisoner escort officers, are trained in actually cell extraction and detaining an individual in very close quarters. Very, very difficult area to work in, very difficult environment, very tight, and somebody always walks away with an injury of some degree. The supervisor from Peel Police deploys the taser on this individual. He went down, cell extraction team moves in, secured him. Actually, only 2 had to move in, secured this individual, and complete compliance right after. Again, with Joey's videos that we have attached to the end of this presentation here, you'll see a great example of that, and this person fit the bill of exactly what went on in this video, so I won't talk any further about that, but I spoke with the cell extraction team members later. They could not believe how effective the taser was, because they've all said they've either been injured by the individual or the officers coming in over the top because it was such a close quarters that they're getting hurt. And it didn't happen here, and they're very thankful for having the taser. Now we talk about active resistance. Subject uses non-assaultive physical action to resist an officer's lawful direction. Pulling away, I'm sure you can read all these points here, but I'd like to give you 2 really good examples that happened again in 2007. Our central robbery investigators were dealing with a party who was wanted for a violent home invasion, sex assault, and he had in his possession at that time during the incident a handgun. The 3 central robbery investigators show up, they deal with this guy in the lobby area of this house. He lives in one of the rooms. He comes out, he's in a house coat. 6'1", 240 pounds. Huge impact factors for us. Our officers were not that big, and they're very for their safety. The one kick here is the subject had his hand behind his back, and he was looking the officers off, giving that 1,000-yard stare. Another cue, a threat cue for our officers. They've got to watch out for this. This is a time when the subject is planning and scheming and thinking about what he's going to do next. So he's not listening to the lawful commands of the officers. He maintains the hand behind the back. They want to see the hands. Obviously, they're in cover. They want to make sure those hands are clear before they move in for the arrest. He does not show the hand. They deploy the taser. Down he went. If there was a bit of a struggle, they ended up securing him without incident. No, he was not armed. But I strongly feel that They should not be put in that position to actually move into a situation where they've got to lay a hand on this person, they don't know what's in that hand. And he had been with a gun in that incident, and it's extremely violent. So that would fit the active resistant portion of the scenario here. The last little example I can give you on the active resistant is a mentally ill individual. He had been involved in an accident 2 weeks earlier, and he had stitches up and down his leg. He had torn the stitches away. So when the officers first dealt with this individual, from a distance, negotiating, blood is pouring out of his leg. They called for EMS. They arrived. The one EMS officer said, or officer, EMS individual personnel said to the lead officer, listen, that could be a life-threatening injury. We must get on this, okay? We don't suggest you fight with this guy because more blood is going to be pouring out. So they deployed the taser. As they moved in, he began to almost get assaulted, but not quite. But they deployed the taser to get him out quickly, secure him, so the EMS personnel could take care of the wound. They believe they saved his life by getting to him as quickly as he did. So another great example. Yet no, was he fighting? No, but we had to get to him to save himself because there was a ton of blood loss. I didn't see the scene myself, but just in the readings, it's quite extensive. So hope you can appreciate the active resistance stage. Peel Police taser information, really important here. 2005 in July, the taser was front line to the supervisors and acting supervisors. So for the first 6 months of taser use in the field front line, we had 40 deployments. The next year, we felt, given that it's now a 12-month period, not 6 months, it would probably be around double, probably around 80. We see that it's only 46. This amazed us. We came to the conclusion, our unit, and after talking to the frontline officers, that the news was on the street that Peel Police were now carrying the taser, and a lot of them either had been hit by it or had heard about the deployment. They didn't want any part of that. So that's why I think the numbers had dropped significantly. So instead of having the 80 that was projected, we only had the 46. Now, in 2007, as of October 31st, we've had 56 deployments. Again, not a lot, especially when you're talking about close to 300 use of force reports and over 245,000 calls for service. I think we're a far cry from other agencies in terms of the actual usage, and we stand by that. The next slide here, the next point, the taser use, the certified officers. There's 434 currently. There's 41 actual units, devices on the street. We've had, now this is a stat from 2 weeks ago, Joe.
Yes.
248 confirmed volunteer hits. I've been hit twice. Joey?
12 times.
12 times.
Wow.
We've added them up, and these are confirmed hits. And you know, it's nice to go in the stand and say, you know what, Your Honor, I've been hit twice by it. I'm an instructor. I survived it. It hurt like heck, but I got through it. Once it was turned off, I'm good. We've had 25 volunteers from the recruits.
At least.
Our latest recruit, post-Elmer class. So you can add 25 to that, and we've had another taser course. So we're pushing the 300 envelope for volunteers in field, just to give you a number. And Joey, I know you spoke with Taser International, and could you provide those stats for me?
Thank you. The day prior to the meeting with CMG, as I told you before, I spoke with Steve Hull, who's Vice President of Communications with Taser International, and I wanted to get an up-to-date statistic because the PowerPoint presentation that we give to the officers says 200,000 plus exposures. So I wanted to get a little more accurate number, and Mr. Cullen told me that up until last week when I spoke to him, there have been 1,110,000 taser applications. Out of those 1,110,000, 497,000 of those were deployed on suspects, and then the other 610,000 some odd were deployed on voluntary exposures alone. So that's what we're currently looking at on a worldwide basis right now of exposures to the taser.
And a nice point at the bottom of the page here, total number of active civil suits involving the taser is 0. Joe, do you want to fill us in on the bottom portion there? There was a civil suit filed, but then it was quashed.
That's correct. There was a civil suit filed. An individual alleged he was pulled over by the police. We're talking about, a Hell's Angel hanging around. We're not talking about a law-abiding citizen here. He was pulled over. He said that he was tasered multiple times by the officers. Actually, Constable Joey Rego, who's in the audience, was the liaison with myself, and we were working together. I ended up downloading all 47 tasers. We have tasers in training also that we use and in stock. So we downloaded all 47 tasers, and we looked through pages and pages of paper. We could not find an incident where that taser was deployed at the time that he alleges. These tasers record up to 1,500 firings. You cannot hamper the evidence at all. If you put this into a microwave, it will not correct the crystal. You can run it over the steam roller. You cannot tamper the evidence of the taser, the statistics that the taser deploys. And like I said before, we went through all the papers and we couldn't find anything. That, along with the individual unable to provide any medical records that he received any type of burn mark, he will fear his complaint or his lawsuit.
That's great. Thanks. We'll just move on to the next slide. There was a few calls that the officers had been on and had mentioned to me. And one in particular was an individual at Ray Lawson and Highway 10. It was -10, middle of winter. His shirt is off, and he's throwing the air punches. And he is working it up. He's all by himself. People called it in, some crazy guy out there. First officer arrives, he looks and says, "You better get more buddies than that." Okay, I'm taking care of business today. So he calls in 3 more units. 3 more officers arrive, and then the supervisor shows up. He has a holster like Joey has it there. The guys, they're at a distance now. He looks over and he says, "You guys carrying those now?" As a matter of fact, we are, sir, because he knows what he's pointing at. He's pointing at the taser. He immediately turned around, went on his knees, and extended his arms up. Okay, that stat was not being recorded, and we needed to capture that information. So Joey and I got together, came up with a 1-question survey. How many times did the taser gain compliance by not even using it, either having it holstered, or like Joey had shown the staff sergeant, or actually painting the picture? You want to go? You see the dot on me here? I trust Joey wholeheartedly. So whether he paints, we call it painting the picture, okay? And that's putting the dot on the subject, center mass, where the first probe will land, strike here, and it'll come off at a 7-degree angle? 8-degree angle, Joe?
Just to answer your question, Worship, the cartridges we're using now are 25-foot cartridges. They've got 3 glass doors, which identify the different types. These are the yellow ones. These are the ones that we use in training. And if we have a chance later on, I'll deploy one into a chair. It doesn't hurt the chair, obviously. But the reason why we use the ones with the green glass doors is 25 feet, and the probes are 0.55 inches long. And the reason why is because of our climate in the wintertime, we do a lot of individuals with big, thick, heavy coats. And we need that little extra penetration so we can get that into the skin, into the body. And I'll touch base on that a little later. But it's the rule of thumb is 13 inches of spread for every 7 feet of deployment. So I can stand 25 feet away from the sergeant. I'm not even 25 feet away. Safe distance for the officer and still get a good deployment and keep the officer safe.
Excellent, thanks. So we wanted to, back to the individual air punching. We wanted to capture those stats. We sent out a 1-question questionnaire, 1 question. It came back to us and we got a number of 385 instances in that year, in 2006, where they feel they got compliance with the taser not even being deployed. Now, only 95 answered the questionnaire. I know for a fact there's some sergeants out there that actually either forgot to answer the questionnaire or couldn't figure out how many instances or incidents that actually the compliance was gained. They know they had more than 5, they just couldn't remember off the top of their head, so they decided not to answer it. We're asking them again for 2007. Please remember the number. Get it back to us because we want to capture that number. So the 385, very conservative number. If you do the math on that, that's a lot of instances. A lot of instances where our officers are not getting hurt, subject's not getting hurt. There's no hands-on. So down to the next point here. 2004 was our last full year without the taser in the field for frontline supervisors. Tactical always had it and averaged around 10 deployments a year. So 2004, out of the 192 instances of use of force being submitted, 84 officers were injured. And that's time off the road, that's some debilitating injuries like blown out knees, shoulders, neck injuries, disc problems. I mean, the list goes on. Now we move on to 2006, our first full year deployment with the Taser frontline supervisors. Now 247 use of force reports submitted, so a very high increase there, another 20% increase in the total compared to 2004, but only 47 officers being injured. For us, that's huge. And we want our officers safe, as I'm sure that the public do, and we don't want the subjects getting hurt either. We want to take care of business, wrap things up, get them arrested, secure them, and get them into the court process. And that's our goal. The vast number of Taser deployments now, after giving you the assaulted and then active resistant, very few are the active resistant. I gave you an example of two. The majority are straight up combative individuals, assaulted. They've already assaulted their wife or the officer or what have you, and a Taser had to be deployed. I just want to make that clear. So I'll pass it over to Joey, and he can talk about the Taser electrical information.
I'm not going to give you a presentation on, someone who has an electrical engineering degree. That's not what I am. What I do want to do is give you a couple numbers because what we do, what you're hearing in the media about 50,000 volts, 50,000 volts, 50,000 volts, it's a little bit of a misconception. I'm going to explain how that is. So I'm going to break some things down for you. For those of you that have been in the Ontario Science Center, as you can see the mother and her daughter there, what they're touching here is called a Van de Graaff generator. And what those individuals are getting is 1 million volts of electricity in their body. Okay? We've all woke up in the morning and touched the door handle and got that little spark. Well, that spark is an upwards of 30,000 volts. Okay? The Taser, the X26, which is the model I have here, the open circuit, the peak voltage is 50,000 volts. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to explain it very briefly on this chart paper. These tasers operate at 19 pulses per second. You're going to hear a sharp crack, and each of those cracks is a pulse. So in a 5-second span, you'll hear this thing crack 95 times. So each of those cracks is a pulse, okay? And there's 19 of those pulses in 1 second. So if I were to draw you just a moment in time, that's not a second. If you were to take 19 of these little boxes, stack them all together, that would represent 1 second of a Taser exposure. In that one pulse, is there a 50,000 volt open circuit? Yes, there is. It's called the stim phase, the arcing phase, I should say. And that probably represents all that it is. In that 19th of a second, there was one little tiny part that is 50,000 volts. The reason why it needs 50,000 volts is it needs to arc through clothing, like a jacket, any types of shirts, jean jackets, things like that. Once it passes through that, it gets into our skin. It needs to pass through skin, fatty tissue, into the muscle and nerve mass that cause the effectiveness. So the Taser does need 50,000 volts to do that. Once it achieves that, it goes into the stim phase. There's an arcing phase and a stim phase. And the arcing phase, or the stim phase I should say, is 1200 volts. Okay, so what the body actually does get is 1200 volts of electricity. So in each period of that crack, you have your 50,000 volts, and then it drops right down, and it does this automatically to the 1200 volts. That's probably the best way that I can describe it. Because what do we hear in the media? Individual tasered by 50,000 volts, right? And it doesn't make much, it wouldn't help if they said, well, person wakes up in the morning and touched the door handle and got 30,000 volts, right? So it's a big, big misconception, but this way it puts it into effect in a little better reality that it's only 1200 volts that you're affecting. The bottom line there of the slide, it says not the volts that are dangerous, it's the amps. Okay? This is a really good slide here. As you can see, the big circle, 100 volts for a wall outlet. It's 16 amps. In the electric chair down in the United States, it runs on 10 amps. Okay? So our electrical outlets are actually more lethal than an electric chair. What makes the electric chair obviously lethal is its repetition of time and the duration of those amps. Okay? A Christmas tree bulb is approximately 1 amp. And if you go to the taser output, the S26, the taser that we use on the road, has 0.0021 amps. The amps is the dangerous part, and that's what they've learned, what Taser National has done, is they've learned to tweak those numbers to get the maximum amount of neuromuscular incapacitation without causing any injury to the body. One of the questions we get, and a lot of people talk about in the public, are pacemakers. Pacemakers are designed to withstand defibrillators. We have a couple in our regional field building. Right actually outside our range, we have a defibrillator. Those pacemakers are designed to withstand defibrillators. If I took this taser and found a way to multiply the power 800 times, I would actually become the same power of a defibrillator. So 800 times the power of this would be the same as the defibrillator. Defibrillators are designed are designed to save pacemakers.
Joey, can you explain how if 2 tasers were deployed in a subject, does it increase the voltage or the amperage?
Not at all. Electricity doesn't multiply or add. So if I had 5 tasers here and one person being tasered, and you deployed at the exact same time, that person would, as they say, it's the ride for 5, would be in that cycle for 5 seconds, but the electricity would be doubled at all. It doesn't increase per taser, doesn't add, right? Now, with one thing that the pacemaker does, and I took a master instructor's course actually in Las Vegas, and this past July in Chicago. The pacemaker identifies that there's something awkward that's not really normal out of the par or out of the normal state of the body. But it's no different than walking outside and feeling just a little bit of breeze of wind. And you can feel that there's wind on your face, but your body doesn't fall over. Your body knows how to counter it and just lean over a little bit to the side and you continue to walk fine. So the pacemaker does identify something, but it doesn't make it serious enough that it's going to give you a jolt. This slide here, we added this slide in the presentation because myself and Sergeant McCowell, actually the whole use of force bill, we feel it's a very, very important slide. Next to the abuse and next to the abuse of the taser. And I'm not going to read the whole slide, but basically what the slide says is multiple taser uses may affect normal breathing. Okay? They did an experiment with anesthetic pigs, and they found that the pigs didn't breathe during the 5-second taser application. And what they're saying is that if you're going to deliver a multiple application, is to monitor the breathing. Now, in saying that, I believe the record so far, and I don't want to say it's a record, but the longest recorded taser application, I believe, was 146 seconds, where they had tasered an individual in a car, were unable to gain entry to the car, held it for 146 seconds on this individual until they gained entry. I saw a video where a gentleman was tasered for 45 seconds across the chest. His blood pressure was normal, his breathing was normal, everything was fine. Was he going through a lot of pain? Yes, he was, but he was breathing. Another officer of ours, Constable Ed Mulder, just this past July in Chicago, took a 20-second ride across the chest. And the same thing, it didn't impair breathing. But what Taser National, what we stress, is that if you need to give another deployment, an extra application, monitor the breathing. If he's being combative, make sure that the person has an opportunity to get a breath of air and deploy. Last week when I was tasered in front of CNG, I didn't have a chance to breathe because I was screaming so loud. Everything was coming out, nothing really wanted to come in at that point. But once it was over, nice big breath of air back and everything was good. The following video
on March 14th.
So I'll just stop right there. This is the video that Sergeant McCowell was talking about with the jail incident, and I'll let the Sergeant explain.
It started on March 14th. I was contacted by my officers, and they said they had an unruly person in our jail that was just actually going to work. There was this guy in one of our holding cells that was just going nuts. He was yelling at everybody that was coming by. He was doing circles within the cell itself, making really no sense, other than he wanted to fight. And it was my impression he wanted to fight. We later found out that he was under the influence of crystal methamphetamine. crystal meth, as commonly referred to. He'd been up for at least 3 days. You'll see in the video, as we make our approach to the door, he even goes more berserk. He stands up. He stands up in a fighting position. Come on in. The officer tried to open the door. He tried to reach and grab the door to pull it open. When he opened the door, the advanced taser was deployed, and we got immediate effect. There was not, in fact, he was not charging us. He stiffened up like a board and slid right down to a position where my officers could move in and contain him quickly without any further injury to him or any of my officers. And what was even more amazing, after this whole incident was said and done, he was apologetic. He was sorry. He told that there was nothing that he has ever been hit with that has ever devastated him the way that the advanced taser has.
I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's alright. All you guys got to do. You feel better? Yeah. Thank you.
He realized what he was doing was wrong. And he basically won't do it again because of what happened, because of this device.
One thing, I don't know if you heard there was actually 2 applications given. And the reason why there was another application given at the time was because the officers hadn't gained control of the arms. Once you gain control of the arms, and that's another thing too, when this taser, when the 5-second application is going, the arms will stiffen up like a board. You can still move the limbs. Once you got the limbs behind the back, then there's no other need for another application. They didn't get it at that point when they initially moved in. Maybe there was too many officers moving in at that point, but that's why the other application was given. Hands go back, no other need. So there's 2 applications, but obviously justified why they did a multiple application.
Refer back to our prisoner escort officers, cell extraction team. I showed a few of them this actual video, and they said it went textbook the way it happened with them. The old days, it's somebody's going to wear a punch of some sort, somebody's going to move in and get him secured, and the fight is on. And it is actually closer quarters than that in Davis and some of the individual cells. So you can imagine, those persons up here ramped up, ready to go, and now the deployment of the taser is a fantastic tool.
The next slide we're going to show you is just a comparison. It was a test done in, I believe it was year 2000 by the RCMP at the depot. On the left, you're going to see an individual being pepper sprayed in the face. What you're supposed to, actually the goal of both officers, and the one on the right, he's going to be tasered. And what you're going to see is the goal is to fight the pepper spray, fight the taser, and go to a series of stations and deliver strikes and blows. So with pepper spray, have we gained compliance? Yes, we have. We've pepper sprayed people before. They've been in so much pain, they've closed their eyes and they've given up. And there's been others that their eyes are closed and they're still in that aggressive assaultive stance. And now you have to do something else to move in. And then obviously the comparison on the other side was a taser application, drops down to the ground right away, and it's that fast. If it's not that fast, there's a disconnect. The pros aren't close enough to the skin. But 99.9% of the time, the taser will work just like you saw on the right-hand side.
Last year's stats, 2006, we had about a 65% effectiveness with the pepper spray. 100% with the taser. Great tool.
I'll let this video speak for itself. The video out of Washington just Washington State, the actual county now. This individual, 6'7", 340 pounds. Was he assaulted? He wasn't assaulted to the officer, but he was definitely active resistant. He's holding on to the car, he's not letting go. I hope you caught on how big this guy's hands were. I would not want to take a punch anywhere near any extremity of my body from a fist like that. It would be like a sledgehammer coming at you. Officer moves in. They have little things. They get the thing out of your pocket. Other departments, they call it the yellow pen. Just little code words so the suspect doesn't really identify. As you notice, the other officer moves in. Perfect taser application. He drops to the ground. You notice the officer on the left side of him has a little difficulty to get that other arm out. Additional application given. The hand comes out and they stop right away. 2 handcuffs because his arms are so big and wrists. He need to get his hands behind his back. A perfect example of an active resistant individual who's not assaulted, but I don't even know how many officers it would take if you were to go hands-on and combat an individual like that.
And we've had many instances in the regional field where individuals were deployed, or the taser was deployed for the first 5 seconds. They drop down and literally try to pop right back up because the crack-induced delirium that they're in, they're running around, they're not feeling the pain. They just don't know why they can't move. That's what goes through their head. And that's what they're telling me, officers saying. I didn't know what was happening to me. I just couldn't move my body. As soon as I stopped, I wanted to get back up. After the second application, now things are the brain starting to go, hey, hold on a second, there's something not quite right here. And more often than not, it only takes that first 5-second hit to actually get the compliance of it.
All right, last week when I did this presentation to CMG, I thought I'd do the sacrificial lamb and take the 5-second exposure. And the reason why I did that, and I explained to the chief and the rest of CMG that was there, does it hurt? Yes, it does. And actually, deputy said, "Joe, you don't have to do this." And I said, "Well, I know I don't. I'm not really looking forward to it, but I know that once it is over, I'm going to be fine." And I wanted CMG to see that, how I jumped right back up. My eyes were a little red, apparently, but I got right back up once the cycle was over. And I wanted to stress the importance, because when we pepper spray somebody, hit an individual with a metal stick, we cause deep bruises, contusions possibly, and now we're spending 45 minutes to an hour decontaminating these individuals and telling them everything's going to be okay. If I had the choice of being pepper sprayed once a month or tasered every day, I would take the tasering every day, because I know once it's over, I'd be fine. So when I was on the course, the Master Instructor's course, I met with another individual who's a senior instructor for Taser National. He's been tased over 400 times. He doesn't try anything on anybody else unless he tries it on himself first. And these are people that are still alive. These people haven't died. I'm here in front of you with 12 applications, and none of the circuits in my brain are fried, and I'm still here able to give you and sort of detailed presentation. But I really wanted to stress that. I wanted to, we wanted to stress to the board that this is a safe tool, and like we commented before, just another tool on our tool belt. So instead of doing a demonstration in front of you today, I brought a video clip that my family and friends get a hoot out probably as many times as they watch it. But it was in taken in Las Vegas. It's part of a stress test a study that I taken. And what they did is they took a sample of my saliva 5 minutes before I got tasered. And I knew that I was going to be tasered all day. And what they're looking for is to see what that stress level is like. And they're measuring for pH levels. So they take the sample of the swab before, 5 minutes before, and then directly after, just to see the difference in the stress levels. So that's what and actually, before I even go to the video, I was shot with the probes. The darts that actually went into my back. And if I had the preference of getting probes or the alligator clips, like what I did in front of CMG, I'd rather take the probes, because the energy goes straight into the skin. There's no burning marks and the energy arcing. And when you rip it out, I wouldn't say rip it out, when you pull it out, very, very rarely, there's no blood. But obviously with the darts, we have to have EMS here to take them out, because they're trained in removing the darts. They put a little band-aid on top of it. So that's what happened to me here.
This basically right there. Ah!
right. I felt the need to pick the lint off my shirt, I don't know why, but I was just glad that it was over. Each pulse that you heard, the only way that I can describe a pulse is it feels like you're being struck in the back with a sledgehammer. Every pulse that hits you, it feels like a sledgehammer. But the incredible thing about this is once that 5 seconds is over, you get a little tingling sensation on 2 entry points, but other than that, you are totally fine. Whereas pepper spray, you just dousing yourself in water for anywhere from 15 minutes,
3 hours,
to 3 hours for some people. And like I said before, once it's done, it's done. And if I shot up any quicker at the CMG presentation, I might have gone through the ceiling. I got up that fast. Like I said, I screamed the entire time. I know I did that because I can remember. And my eyes went a little red from the trauma.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for taking the time out to listen to us blab on about the taser. But again, it's something that we are very passionate about. It's a fantastic tool for us in the field, and I hope after this it provides you some information as to how we use it.
Are there any questions?
Thank you, yeah. Any questions?
These active tasers. Well, any type of electronic control device are prohibited in Canada. So anything that you hear and you see, if the officer sees stun guns and things like that, or telephone, those are being shipped up in the States, mail order, through borders and the borders. But this model of the taser is only available through law enforcement. There's a company that we deal with in Charlton, in Mississauga, that brokers these things from the States. They come by secure packaging, and it's treated just like a firearm in terms of shipping.
And in treating that like a firearm, we also train every year. They do a recertification on our field officers to be qualified in the murder rifle and the taser as well. Not only do they use of force, but taking care of that.
Just more or less for clarification. There's some in the public sometimes people feel that all the officers are carrying these. Maybe you just indicate exactly who is authorized for service.
Absolutely. The frontline sergeants are carrying on in the field, as well as the acting sergeants, the acting supervisors. So they have to be certified. They have to go through a 4-hour training course to be a user, and then come back every year thereafter for a 2-hour taser recertification. So we take them through current scenarios that are happening in the field, and we work on judgmental training. Very important here, and we want to make sure they're using proper judgment. But it's frontline supervisors, so we have that includes detectives from a rally and acting detectives, detectives from street crime and acting detectives. Help me out there, Joey. What else we got?
In the court bureau?
Court bureau, central traffic sergeants are carrying. CIB detectives are also carrying for those times when you have to deal with these individuals that are high end.
Is this like the standard for?
It is, sir. The Sol Gen's office dictates who carries, and they're saying frontline supervisor or designate only at this point.
There is a difference in across Canada, though. Alberta, frontline officers are authorized to carry it. I've got a really great rapport with all the master instructors across North America, essentially. And what they've done in Edmonton is all frontline officers are qualified. However, because it's such, it would be a logistical nightmare to go from the 47 tasers that we currently manage today to 1,500 tasers. And what they've done is they hand selected 5 or 6 people from each platoon that they more senior officers that are carrying it front line now, and then eventually they're going to upscale. Alberta, British Columbia, and I believe Nova Scotia is on that way also. But still in Ontario, they've only approved it, Sol Gen's office for frontline supervisors.
And through you, Mr. Chair, to the Chief, I guess I say this with the utmost respect, but I just wonder if after being tasered once by someone on a new level or not.
I'm not, I don't think think I can answer that question.
It was more a statement.
Yeah.
It's faith in the device there. It's faith in the device, knowing that I will recover it.
Any other questions? If not, I want to thank you, gentlemen. That was an extremely interesting presentation, I should say, particularly with what we're reading in the press and whatnot at this time. It's good that we understand what it is. At this board, I think I speak for everyone that we are very supportive of that tool. And again, I want to thank you. Anything else, Chief?
I want to thank Joey and Sergeant McCowell for coming before the board, Mr. Chairman. I think it's important for the board and all members of the public to realize who carries it. The sergeant or the designates. They get an annual requalification once a year. They get requalified, and there's a use of force report each time it's deployed, and that allows us to analyze the situation and actually bring them forward in the training. So I think there's as many checks and balances for the safety of the public and our officers, and I think it is an effective, safe tool to use at the moment, and we don't plan on changing our deployment tactics at all.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I think the other thing that I was most impressed was the fact that the amount of compliance by just the presence of the keys, from the potential use of the keys. Basically safety on your part as officers as well as the individual that may be in front.
Did you want to see the deployment into the chair so get a bird's eye view? So,
Can we put Jim Murray in the chair?
chair, would you like me to deploy? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to deploy a 15-foot cartridge, and obviously there's a 25-foot, 15-foot. The probes are exactly the same. The length of wire is different. Obviously, we feel with a 25-foot cartridge, we give our officer the maximum distance for safety. But for training purposes, we use the yellow door cartridge. It's obviously a little less expensive, and obviously you have to go through a lot. So if I'm dealing with this combative chair and he's reciting a bunch of slurs at me and he's got his fists up, we're going to tell him to comply, get down on the ground, get down on the ground. Taser, taser, taser. Now once it's deployed, if he decides to get up again, I can also deploy that. If I get, let's say if this individual's been tasered, now his friend's coming after me, I can affect the push mode, so he can come at me. I can also drive stun is the part of the combatant. This guy is gonna wear it also, but instead of holstering this thing, and instead of holstering the taser, we can still keep it out and still affect that compliance that we need.
Very interesting.
No, you know what, it doesn't.
I didn't bring a vacuum.
That's the spread pattern we're looking for. If they're up
I just
close,
asked if the man were.
Yeah.
you know, the back, because of all the muscle area, into the legs, into the buttocks, like, it's beautiful. Nice, large, very the hip. I'll tell you, some of the heavier individuals that get struck in the stomach, there's more than 2 inches of fat there, and it may have disconnected. You may have to take off the gun, do a reload, and hit from another area.
So it does have to get into the muscle.
You've got, it's a 2-inch arc maximum. So if he's got a belly up in here, if it's not striking, not really getting a strong hold into the muscle area, ideally the fat people want to hit the backside.
What's that cartridge cost?
$38, I believe, and the 25-footers, I believe, are $46. Now, everything has come down in price with the way the dollar has. We were first purchasing our tasers at $13.96 per unit, and now we're down to, I believe it's $10.32 per taser.
When Joey deployed the taser cartridge, every taser cartridge has what's called AFIDs. Joey, that stands for
Anti-foul identification is more based for civilian use in the States, but it's just another one of those checks that if an officer maliciously deploys the taser, there's no way that you're going to pick up all these little confetti-like pieces. Some of them are even transparent.
there's 30 on it.
20 to 30, they never tell you exactly how many. Some are transparent, you have to look at a magnifying
There
glass.
appears to be a bar
That's correct.
coming out.
What was happening initially is officers were taking the suspects to the hospital, the probes removed, and doctors were going in with a scalpel trying to go around it, and it's essentially just putting your hand straight out.
Fire appears to be sharp on both. So it's sharp comes out.
You,
So it would come out.
it comes out very easy, and to be honest with you, I didn't feel the darts come out of my back. I didn't feel it.
Well, I guess if it went in, if it was sick.
Yes, it just comes directly out, and like I said, it was honestly pain-free coming out.
Several. They'll go through 45 and through 20. You don't know if you've got them all, so if somebody's trying to deploy and try to do a quick cleanup. It's already on their computer anyway, so
There's no way you would, a paper trail.
It will register, yes. You download that. Once the taser's deployed, it's taken out of service, brought down to our office. We have we're the only ones that can download the information. It spits out the page that you're looking for. And again, it's going to be the full, if I want to look at all 1,500, previous 1,500 firings, which should be that much at this point, unless it's one of the training devices, it's there. You say, I'd like to have it, it happened at 12:05, give me from 11:50 in the evening until 1 o'clock in the morning, just to make sure you capture that information, because some officers maybe the watch is off, but it's the timing on the computer.
The timing now is so accurate. We have a procedure also that every 3 months, myself and another officer go to each division and download all the information off the tasers. And it's just to make sure that there's always new software updates coming out, and the software is so sophisticated now that in a 4-month span, we find that we're off about 56 seconds to a minute from the time that the taser registered 4 months ago. The software, like the memory recording, is so accurate. We're having a little bit of difficulty when they first came out. It's a new product, obviously. They made the proper updates to it up to a version 20 battery. And like I said, 56 seconds is the most that I've seen in 4 months that the taser's been off in terms of time. And 56 seconds off in discrepancies is a lot better than 35 or 40 minutes when we're trying to prove something in court that we did not taser this person because we don't have that registered time.
Well, thank you again, gentlemen. That was great.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.